What the f*** are you supposed to do when you get fired? You just take it? You just take it like a man? I'm unemployed. What am I supposed to do now? Do I go home and goon? Like, guys, what do I do?
So liberals are getting mad because they are getting fired left and right because their shameless antics on when they were making fun of Charlie Kirk for his unaliving, his assassination. And they were jumping, screaming, doing all of this unnecessary stuff because they're obviously hateful and was raised possibly from the devil. So now they're getting fired from their jobs and they're crying foul, freedom of speech.
And I don't really give a shit that he's dead. Okay, that was funny. Ha ha ha, very funny.
Guys, the online reaction to Charlie Kirk's death has become one of the most controversial conversations in recent memory. Instead of unified mourning or respectful silence, social media has turned into a battlefield. On one side, there are people expressing disgust, condemning what they call pure and unfiltered hate. They see celebrating death as proof of deep moral root, a sign that empathy is vanishing from society. On the other side, we see celebration, people mocking, laughing, and even claiming that Kirk's passing was God's plan. Some argue the victim was to blame, as if violence and death can ever be justified. This clash reveals something bigger, the dangerous divide in how society views human life, free speech and accountability. Today, we are not just asking whether it's wrong to celebrate death. We are asking what these reactions mean for our humanity, our workplaces and our future as a society.
If you say anything about Charlie Kirk online that your employer does not like and they fire you, there may not be much you can do about that. My name is Paige Sparks. I'm an employment lawyer, and this makes my eye twitch, misstated all over the internet. You don't have an absolute freedom of speech against everyone for everything. Your constitutional rights, like the Bill of Rights, which includes the First Amendment freedom of speech, primarily protects you from the government, not against individual people or private entities. The U.S. Constitution limits the government's power. It is not meant to regulate private behavior in between people or in between businesses that have nothing to do with the government.
Breaking news, here are the top 5 companies that have fired people for making celebratory social media posts about Charlie Kirk's death. Number 5 is DC Comics. Now, they have canceled the latest edition of the series Red Hood by Gretchen Felker Martin. Now, they believe Martin made an inappropriate social media post and have decided to do away with the series. Number 4 is MSNBC. They fired Matthew Dowd pretty much right alongside with the assassination. He immediately made some remarks that the things Charlie Kirk was saying and doing led to the assassination, and they quickly fired him. Number 3, Tennessee State University fired an employee. And number 2 is American Airlines, who fired a pilot for making a social media post. Number 1, this is the Carolina Panthers.
Oh man, I feel good. I just got fired. And honestly, when they told me, I was like a little like, eh. But then after, I was like, fuck this. They're back there having their little chat together. The guy that let me go was trying to block me from saying goodbye to my coworkers right now. Like, he was like guarding them or something. And then that's when I was like, okay, bye. Goodbye, guys. I'll see you later.
You've all seen the clip of the man celebrating after Charlie Kirk had been struck by a bullet from an assassin's weapon. And now he's getting the heat for it. He's putting out a statement trying to explain it away. But let's get real. That statement isn't honest. It's damage control, because once the cameras caught him cheering, the mask came off. His true heart was on full display. Celebrating when a man is being carried away. That's not politics. That's not passion. That's hate. Pure hate. And no polished excuse can cover that up. Your words are now empty. Your actions already told us everything we need to know about you, and America won't forget. Listen to what he says.
The event opened with music, people throwing hats, and loud exchanges from different parts of the crowd. At that point, I did not see what happened directly. My head was lowered while I listened. When I heard a sharp crack, at first I thought it might have been fireworks or a disruptive prank, so I looked up to the horizon for smoke. When none appeared, I realized it must have been a firearm. My friend reacted in horror, saying Charlie had been struck. His voice and description told me how serious it was. Based on his reaction, I believe Charlie had been gravely injured. I instinctively checked the security team's movement, though I have no affiliation with them. Realizing the situation was dangerous, I stood and shouted USA.
And I don't really give a shit that he's dead. Okay, that was funny. Ha ha ha, very funny.
This is a perfect example of how messed up our world is today.
The debate over celebrating death quickly spills into the real world, where, consequences hit hard. Several individuals who openly mocked or laughed at Kirk's death were fired from their jobs. Employers like Walmart and even sports organizations moved quickly to cut ties, making it clear no company wants to be associated with employees who glorify murder. For critics, this isn't about silencing free speech. It's about protecting basic human decency. They argue freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom from accountability. If your online presence reflects cruelty and hate, you risk your livelihood. But here's another side to this coin. Some of those fired say they actually felt relieved. They describe their jobs as draining, and being let go gave them freedom to pursue their passion. Yet others spiral into panic, pleading for financial advice, worried about paying for gas, food, and survival. These contrasting responses highlight two things. First, celebrating violence has personal and professional costs. And second, how a person handles job loss depends on their mindset, whether they feel powerless or whether they reframe it as liberation. Still, the broader lesson remains. Your actions online are never just online. They can and will shape your real world, world future. When you strip away the politics, the memes, and the online noise, what we are really seeing here is a moral test. The death of Charlie Kirk, regardless of what you think of his politics, has revealed just how fractured our moral compass has become. Let's start with the raw reality. Celebrating the death of any human being is a profound act of dehumanization. Imagine being Kirk's child or spouse, logging onto social media and seeing strangers laughing at his death, mocking his pain, or calling it God's plan. That's not just offensive. It's cruelty at its most casual, broadcast for the world to consume. Critics are right to call this pure, unfiltered hate, because let's be clear, laughing at someone bleeding out is not debate. It's not edgy commentary. It's certainly not free speech without consequences. It's hate. And yet, despite this clear moral line, we saw people just fight. Some said, well, he brought it to himself. Others shrugged, calling it destiny or divine will. This is where things get dangerous. When people start excusing death as God's plan, they are not only dismissing human tragedy, they are normalizing the idea that violence is an acceptable outcome for political or ideological disagreements. That mindset doesn't just rot empathy, it invites more division, more hatred, and potentially more violence. Now, society's response is fascinating. We saw real accountability in action. Employers stepped in, not out of politics, but out of principle. Companies said loudly and clear, if you celebrate death online, you will not represent our brand. And that matters because it tells us that while individuals feel entitled to their free speech, corporations are exercising their freedom of association. They are protecting their image, their message, and ultimately their customers. This is why people were fired, and frankly, why more will be fired in future if they cross the same line. For some, this accountability is devastating. Losing a job, losing income, suddenly staring at bills you can't pay. That is a real pain, and we had that pain directly. One person begged for financial advice online, admitting they couldn't even afford gas. Another questioned how they were supposed to, survive adulthood when a single mistake only cost them everything. These reactions show how unprepared many people are for the, consequences of their own actions. When the internet feels like a playground, it's easy to forget the real world has rules. This reveals something powerful. The same event, a firing can either break you or liberate you, depending on your mindset. Still, whether you feel free or destroyed doesn't erase the bigger picture. Celebrating death online is not just about personal consequences. It's about what kind of society we are building. Do we want to live in a world where mocking assassination is normal? Where, empathy is seen as weakness and where hate is disguised as debate? Or do we want to hold ourselves and others accountable, recognizing that our words carry weight, our actions have consequences, and morality cannot be, tossed aside for clout or clicks? This is the crossroads we are at. Celebrating Charlie Kirk's death is bigger than one man, bigger than one ideology. It's about who we are as people. When we laugh at death, we lose a piece of humanity. When we hold people accountable for that cruelty, we take a step towards protecting empathy, decency, and basic human respect. The internet gives us freedom, but freedom without accountability is chaos. And if we want a society that values life, then celebrating death, no matter whose death it is, cannot be allowed to slide. Guys, drop a comment. Let me know, what are your thoughts? Also, remember to subscribe, like, and share as well. And until next time, bye-bye.